But thanks everybody for joining us. This is a super exciting opportunity that came together very fast, and we really appreciate everybody taking their time out to be part of it. I wanted to just bring together some people that I've been dealing with over the last year, of course, Uniboard for much longer, but some people with ideas that are colliding from opposite ends of the furniture and materials specification spectrum. And so just as a very, very brief introduction, my name is Ken Bush, for those of you who don't know me. That is Don Raymond and Ariane Bouchard and Peter Z from Uniboard. And Lara Shortall is joining us as well. I didn't tell Don and Ariane, Lara's Canadian too, so hippie. Lara is an interior designer involved in the hotel world and also very, very involved in sustainable specification. And when I met her at the Boutique Design New York show last fall, the hotel show in New York City, we started having really great conversations about sustainability and health and wellness in material specification for commercial spaces. And it was syncing up perfectly with a CEU that I was just wrapping up for Uniboard. For those who don't know, CEU is a continuing education unit presentation for architects and interior designers based on sustainability. Ariane had the great idea of linking up how Uniboard approaches sustainability, everything from FSC, forestry management, to material substitution, with the values of millennial consumers and designers. And now, of course, we've got Generation Z as well. So we've got all this synchronicity happening here, and I just wanted to give these folks a chance to talk about it in real time to people in the industry who should understand a little bit more what's happening on the front lines here with commercial specification. So I'm going to keep this rolling here and turn it over. Lara, if you want to give us a short introduction of yourself and tell us what you're all about.
Sure. Yeah. Hi. Hello, everybody, and thank you for joining us today. My name is Lara Shortall. As Ken said, I have a background in interior design, and I worked in the hospitality design industry for my career, over 20 years. And the last kind of 14, I worked for Starwood Hotels and Resorts, and I led the team there to develop new design prototype standards for 3 of their hotel brands, for the Aloft, Element, and 4 Points by Sheraton hotel brands. And my team was responsible for coming up with the design that franchisees would use, their design teams would use to build new hotels or renovate hotels. And I have a personal passion for health and wellness, which also leads into the work that I was doing. So a passion for environmental and human health in the built environment. And so in the work that I was doing, I led our team to, I felt that we had a responsibility that if we are specifying products that would be in a specification standard that hotel owners and designers would use for potentially 5 years or more, that we should have a good understanding of the environmental and human health impacts of those products, and we should choose accordingly. And so we did everything we could to learn about that and use that information as we developed our specifications. It's a really daunting process, really difficult to figure out and navigate the many different certifications and standards that are out there. There is no straightforward process for it, and there certainly wasn't then. So I've actually been working for a company called MindClick for the last 3 years. And that's kind of what we do is, I'm just going to share my screen here. We actually take products and we evaluate them across their life cycle for different sustainability metrics. So the image I have here on the screen is an infographic we used to talk about the framework that we created. Back in 2011, Marriott hotels actually committed to greening their global supply chain. And The person in charge of their procurement team was tasked with doing that, and we ended up getting connected to him at the time. I wasn't at MindClick at the time, but we were connected to him to help him figure out how to do that. So we pulled together a hospitality sustainable purchasing consortium, which consisted of team members from Marriott, architects and designers, sustainability experts, purchasing agents, members of the United States Green Building Council, as well as about 20 different manufacturers across several different product categories in the fixtures, furniture, furnishings, and equipment categories. And we came up with this framework to evaluate products across their life cycle. So what we do is we have a survey, and we ask these vendors about their products. We ask them questions about their products, and we ask them about the materials in their products. You know, in the case of Uniboard, are you using sustainably harvested materials? What percentage of the product is that? We ask them about their chemicals of concern. Are they doing anything to manage chemicals of concern or evaluate potential chemicals of concern in their products? We ask about their manufacturing facilities in terms of their fair labor and human rights practices. And this goes along with the UN Convention for Human Rights and Fair Labor as a standard. We also ask about their environmental practices in the manufacturing facility. Are they tracking energy, water, waste, and greenhouse gas emissions? And are they setting reduction targets for that and achieving those targets year over year? We also ask about how they package the products. Are they doing anything to minimize the amount of material used while still protecting the product? We asked how the products are distributed. Are they using the most efficient trucking methods like an EPA SmartWay system to mitigate greenhouse gas emissions? We also ask how the products impact the health of the building occupant in terms of indoor air quality or potential exposure to toxins. How do the products impact the operations of the building in terms of energy, water, and waste? And then finally, what happens to those products at the end of their life? Can they be taken back, repurposed, recycled? For every positive claim that a vendor would make about any of these metrics, any of the questions we ask, they are required to provide documentation to validate their claim. Then MindClick has a team of auditors that reviews all of that information, and then we score and rate every product based on the answers and the documentation given. We give a product a good, better, best rating, and we call that starter, achiever, and leader. And the benefit of that is that it helps companies, organizations like Marriott, to make sense of all of that sustainability information, rather than their procurement team having to go to all the different websites of each vendor to understand what they're doing for sustainability. We can compile all of that information based on the data that we collect in a way that helps them use that to make contracting and purchasing decisions, as well as design decisions too, when they're developing a new design. So some of these, you know, there's hundreds of these standards and certifications that are out there. And these can be used as documentation when they're responding to our survey. But then our good, better, best, or starter, achiever, leader ratings kind of sit on top of all of those different standards and certifications. And they help to, like I said, make sense of that information. They help decision makers compare products to one another. And as a designer, if I'm specifying products, all I need to do is look for these ratings. And if I'm selecting a product with an achiever or a leader rating, I have confidence that it has a good performance in terms of its sustainability. And I don't have to know all the details behind the rating. We have the data there if they want to know that, but they don't need to get involved in all of those details. It kind of helps to simplify that decision-making process and understanding. And then I just wanted to share this with you as well. The benefit of all of that is that when you share the stories of those products, the healthy, the environmental and human health benefits, the stories of that with consumers, it resonates with them. And I think you're going to hear a little bit more about that from Ariane. But we did a pilot project about 5 years ago at a Courtyard by Marriott, where all of the products that were installed in that hotel were rated by us. And we created a digital communication platform that guests staying in the hotel could interact with. They could learn about those products. They could learn about the environmental and human health benefits of the products of the hotel that they were staying in. And for the guests who did learn about that and found out about the health of those products, they had a 150% increase in satisfaction in loyalty compared to guests staying in the same hotel during the same time period who did not learn about the information behind those products. So it's a pretty significant impact, and it shows how this is important and this is meaningful to, to guests. We had interviewed some of these guests. This is some of the things that they had said. If they had to choose between hotels, this would definitely be a factor that would weigh into that. And this was not just leisure guests. This was in the business traveler as well. So it's pretty impactful to hear that and to know that those stories were really important to these consumers. Ken, I'll turn it back to you.
Sure. So what really kind of drew me into what you're doing, Lara, is the fact that you are streamlining how specification teams can assess products based on health and human wellness, sustainability, et cetera, et cetera. And your system basically is geared to cut through all the chaff of these 550 plus eco labels that are out there. And what Marriott sees is this score, this rating, but they also see a one-page, I keep calling it a dossier, but a story about how that product or that vendor or that material received that score.
Right.
And that story is really it can become part of, in this case, Marriott's marketing program, right? Marketing and communications. So that's what made me think of right away, the work that I was doing with Don and Ariane on the CEU, finding better ways to tell the story about composite wood panels and specifically TFL decorative panels to not just the design community, but in such a way that it becomes a story for the consumer as well. So I'm going to ask Don and Ariane to kind of jump in at this point and pick up on that.
Thanks, Ken. And it's great to have your vision, Lara, and insight about the architect and designer community. So again, my name is Ariane, marketing manager at Uniboard since approximately 5 years. Thanks everybody for joining us today. It's a good occasion for us to share some insight about what we're seeing here in the market. So yes, to answer your question, Ken, it's also why we decided to do a CEU. And the reason is we needed to express to our customer and to architect and designer how our products are changing the world and how our products are green and how it is made. So to answer the why, we had to show them the how. And so I'm going to share my screen too to show you what we have developed with the CEU. So the CEU we have developed was really focused on the climate positive decorative panels, from forest management to material substitution. The CEU did have a few learning objectives, and you mentioned one, Ken, at the beginning of the call. It's how we understand how deeply millennials and younger generation customers value corporate social and environmental sustainability. Because at Uniboard, we've seen customer habits were changing. We saw there was an evolution in the way that people evaluate the products and in the way that the products are specified. Lots and lots of questions regarding sustainability and how the products contribute positively to the environment. Then another objective for us was to explain the basic makeup and application of TFL decorative panels, discuss the impact of FSC managed forest, on local ecosystem and communities, because it's not only about the product itself, it's about the complete ecosystem where the product evolves. And finally, one of the objectives was to understand what makes certain materials climate positive, like the big movement that we're living in. And so, we built a big presentation of 50 slides and more, but I selected a few slides for you guys to see results from some research we have done. So first of all, we realized that the commitment to the environment influences purchases for 45% of consumers. And we see that more and more consumers are willing to pay more for environmentally friendly products. So it's not only about a feeling, it's also about the data. More than 9 in 10 would switch brands to one that is associated with a cause. So everything's related to environment, but also authenticity of a brand and transparency as well. 72% would pay more for products made by a brand that they trust. So if you want to tell people that you're a brand that they trust, you need to tell them the story and express them how your product are saving the world. So this is an example of statistics we have found out with the research we have done. I'm going to pass this to Don. He will talk a little bit about the 5 levers to minimize the materials impact.
Yeah, good afternoon, everybody. I hope you can hear me. I'm not going to read the top paragraph, but basically what it says is that, you know, the world today in producing materials is using a lot more resources than the earth can actually provide. There was a study done that referenced in the bottom that basically presently we're using about 1.7, they refer to it as Earth's resources per year, where the earth can only provide 1. So we're actually using a lot more resources that we simply don't have. And what people are looking for they're looking for what materials are available that will minimize this impact. And from the study, there was 5 levers that were used or identified to that can be done to minimize its impact. From like lifetime extension, that's building products that last longer, that are engineered better, dematerialization, using lighter weight materials, finding other ways to not use as much resources, but still come up with a product that is as good or better than what you have today. You know, there's manufacturing efficiency, which I'll explain. We have one slide on that to explain TFL, what's happened in the last 15, 20 years. You know, substitution, you know, a lot of people like the exotic veneers. Exotic veneers are in short supply and they're endangered in many cases. TFL, decorative laminates, can produce as good or better looking product than say the real McCoy at a better price point and more durable. And you know, the consumer, when he looks and says, wow, I got a beautiful piece of furniture made of veneer. And then recovery is about, we can use it in the panel industry about, you know, our industry making TFL, the core is a particle board or an MDF, we use wood residues. And so that's a perfectly aligned. When you take a look at these 5 levers and you roll it back or align it to composite panel, they're basically, it's a perfect alignment in terms of our industry, the TFL industry and the composite wood panel industry. We're perfectly aligned to these 5 levers in terms of reducing the impact of taking resources to make our product. The next slide, Afian. And again, this is it's a pretty big deck we have for this CEU. But you know, we're talking here about specific manufacturing efficiencies to TFL, but I talked about it before in the other slide. Composite panel, with the use of composite panels, you know, 95, 98% of a tree is used. So they make, you know, lumber with the tree, all the residues are made with panel. We even use residues for, you know, providing energy for our our facilities. And I'm not even talking about better forest management practices. That's another part of the presentation. But if you take a look at the manufacturing efficiencies, and I think a picture says 1,000 words. Take a look at these facilities. This is a typical TFL facility, high tech, high utilization, minimal waste. Again, this is about manufacturing high quality products very, very efficiently. We don't use glues to laminate veneers onto particle board. It's thermally fused, one-step process, very, very efficient. Even in terms of making the cores, with all the continuous press technologies that are out there, as an industry, we become more and more efficient of utilizing those scarce resources that are available to us, which again goes back to those 5 levers I talked about before. I think that's a good synopsis of 2 areas that are aligned to our CEU that we've developed. Ariane, I'll pass it back to you.
Yes, and that's the reason why also companies like us have an interest to invest in their transparency initiative. For example, we've worked on publishing environmental data sheets. We've worked on certificates, EPD, HPD. We're working on this to make sure that when our products are considered for a project, like Lara mentioned, they can be specified and they can meet the expectation of the architect and designer community. So Ken, I don't know if you wanted to get maybe an input of Peter's vision on this from his perspective with our customers directly.
Exactly. Yeah, Peter, you are calling on A&D. So how does this story help you place more TFL?
I got to tell you, it helps tremendously, because the word transparency has been used so often in the last 6 years in the media, representing other things other than what we're talking about here. But it has been the common question that I have heard from doing CEU presentations or talking to designers, or even down to the actual purchaser, the end user, as to asking questions about what's in that product. Where did the product come from? What are the actual wood ingredients in this product, and that the resins are used, and so on. And the more you hear that, the more you realize that being transparent up front gives you a foothold in the industry, I believe, and makes you move forward a lot quicker than the competition does. So when we do this, for example, I'm a traveler, so I'm going to be picking a brand that I know is going to be consistent. I know what the sheets and the pillows are going to look like in the hotel. I know that the place is going to be clean, and so on and so forth. This takes that to the next level. You investigate what is all about the product. You offer that to the consumer up front. And now you have a wonderful opportunity for someone to say, you know what, I'm going to choose this brand because they've gone through the exercise of telling me everything about this product and how it's made and why I should be involved in doing that. It's a wonderful way. The architects and the designers are going to love this. Especially clarifying some of these things, like the distance between plant and end user and or fabricator, and anything that goes along with answering those questions for them. They're going to be shaking their heads saying, this is where we want to go. Plastic laminate, TFL is truly in this world.
Lara, do you agree? Let me preface this just a little bit. So Lara and I, when we first started talking, she was telling me about a company that she very much respected that supplies flooring to the A&D world, because you visited a plant and every person in that plant could tell the entire company story. And that's what I think is very important for our industry. But so you're still talking about that years later. That made a big impression on you.
Yeah, it did. It's not a secret. The company was Interface Flooring and Carpet. And, you know, they have a very strong story that comes right from the CEO and travels all the way down. The sales rep that we worked with was so passionate about it, and she was so excited about the story to tell. And then when we went to visit the factory in LaGrange, Georgia, the people that were working around there, you know, if we tried to stop them to ask a question, they'd say, "Excuse me, but I've really got work to do, and this is really important work." And they would talk about, you know, they would be willing to talk about, you know, how excited they were that, you know, they were doing everything they could. And at the time, the company's goal was to get off oil and to, you know, reduce the use of petroleum in the manufacturing of their products. And so they were all about that effort. We even went to their facility that takes back carpet, and that guy was so excited telling us the story about the carpet products that he took back that didn't even have to be from Interface, and showed us the whole process of how they bundled everything into these massive bales and separated the face fiber from the backing. And again, just every person within the company at every touch point was able to tell that story, and they were really proud of it.
And that's amazing. And that's what I would love to see our industry kind of think of itself as, a company like that. Everybody in the value chain able to tell that part of the story. And Peter, I know we talked about this yesterday with Lara, but another thing I saw Lara share in a presentation was the worst thing somebody like Peter, somebody who calls on A&D specifiers, can say when you're sitting in front of an architect or a designer is, "Oh yeah, we've got that environmental thing down. Just go to our website, it's everywhere." In reality, exactly, right? It's very important for people to be able to articulate the what we're calling the climate positive story. Now that term keeps coming up because at the same time I started working with Lara and was just wrapping up with Uniboard on the CEU. I was looking for a better way to say carbon negative in the context of composite wood panels. Very briefly, composite wood panels store more carbon than is released in their production. The longer they last in an application, the longer that carbon is stored. It's a powerful story that no other material in the buildings world can tell, absolutely, hands down. When you factor in FSC forestry management and the fact that we're saving rare and fragile veneers from use in areas where they'd be quickly destroyed, elevator cabs is my favorite example, that story just gets better and better, the sustainability story. IKEA, when I was researching for this term that's better than carbon neutral or carbon negative, climate positive came up. IKEA is pushing that hard. They want to be climate positive by 2030. So I'm not going to share my slides. I see that we're running low on time, but my vision is that we can get this entire industry working together to own this climate positive story. There are several industries out there that are trying to be climate positive. They got this plan. Composite wood panels and TFL are climate positive now. And that is literally, that's something we can own that nobody else can say. I just wanted to tell, this is going to be news to Don and Ariane, but I'm working on a major story for the Interiors and Sources July, August issue on materials and sustainability. And I'm going to lean heavily on our work in the CEU and give you guys credit for that. Lara is going to be one of my star interviewees. She's got such a great perspective on specification and the universe of eco labels and what matters and what doesn't and how people interpret them. But we're coming up toward the end here. I have been monitoring the chat. I don't see anybody having any emergencies or urgent questions. Any final thoughts from you, Lara?
No. I mean, I think it's important to understand that this is a topic that is important. It's very relevant now. You know, I've seen a few articles just even in the last few days where with all the talk about COVID-19, has the story about climate change taken a back seat, and it's actually not. You know, it's an important story now more than ever. And it's important that companies are focusing on that they're continuing to do their work in order to, you know, to show to their customers what they're doing to contribute to a positive, climate positive, really.
Mm-hmm.
Ken,
Peter?
just a point. I was reading one of the chats, Stanley Walter, which is one of our customers. It's an interesting comment that he had. If you want to take a look at it, maybe you want to comment on it, because it's exactly what you're talking about and what we've been working on the last couple of months.
Yeah. So I gave a presentation to the Woodworking Network's Closets seminar online yesterday. And I got a flurry of responses that looked a lot like this. Where can we get access to this, a way to tell this story? So absolutely, let's follow up with everybody who's still with us and try and get that into their hands, because this is not just an important topic, it's going to be the topic, if it isn't already. Climate and human health, sustainability, climate positive materials. Maybe final closing thoughts to Peter Z and Ariane?
I agree, Ken, 100%. If it's not already, it should be, because you see what's going on in the market with everything that Lara mentioned, and it is extremely important for us to push this forward and become part of it.
I agree. I think it's a joint movement where everybody have to participate to get the message out.
Yeah. So it'd be great to have everybody on the same page. And again, climate positive is going to be an emerging term in not just commercial specification, but in consumer marketing as well. And we have a really unique chance to own climate positive now, because of the nature of our materials. So that was fantastic, you guys. We went a couple of minutes over, but I hope everybody got a lot out of this. I would love to hear from any of the participants after the fact here, if you have some follow-up questions, et cetera, et cetera. And I guess with that, we should probably sign off and stay respectful of everybody's time.
Great.
So
Thank you.
thank you. Thanks, everybody.
Have a great day.
Thanks. Bye.
Ciao.
Bye.